What's going on, YouTube? Today we're going to be doing something very different. We're going to be putting nylon strings onto an electric guitar. A Parker PDF 85 to be exact. Now I know what you're thinking. That's not really going to work because magnetic pickups on an electric guitar won't pick up vibrations on a nylon string. And you would be right. However, Parker, in their infinite wisdom, put a piezo pickup in the bridge. Not only does it give the guitar an amazing acoustic sound with steel strings, but I'm thinking it'll also pick up nylons. So let's find out if this will work. So in order to put nylon strings on an electric guitar, you're going to need two different things. You're going to need a nylon ball end strings, which allow you to run nylon strings to an electric guitar's bridge, and you're going to need a piezo pickup, which picks up sound differently from your traditional magnetic pickups in an electric guitar. Alright, so it's all strung up and ready to test. What I'm going to do now is plug it in and test it, make sure this actually works. I'm fairly confident that it will. And from there, if all goes well, I will spend the next week testing it and get back and tell you what the pros and cons are to doing something like this. Alright, so trash finger picking technique aside, I actually really liked the way this guitar sounded. I wasn't 100% sure that this would actually work when I started because I couldn't find any other videos of Parker guitars with a piezo pickup in the bridge with nylon strings on them. But all in all, I really kind of enjoyed this experiment. I ended up having a lot of fun with it, and I found out that this guitar actually sounded pretty good with nylon strings, and it would have sounded even better had I been playing it through an acoustic amp. So with that said, there's pros and cons to doing something like this. The pros are obviously, I thought it sounded pretty good. You know, it's a little softer because they're nylon strings. It still isn't quite a classical tone either, which makes it unique in that sense. So one of the pros was that this was fairly simple to do. All I had to do was get nylon ball end strings, string the guitar up, and I was good to go. There were no further modifications needed, and the guitar was playable, although it could probably benefit from some other adjustments I'll talk about in a minute. And as for the cons, well, one of the cons to doing something like this is the fact that on an electric guitar, the neck is narrower and the strings are closer together. And while you would think that would make this easier to play, it actually makes it a little bit more difficult. And part of the reason for that is because nylon strings seem to have wider movement when they vibrate. So it made it more difficult to play in the sense that when you strum a chord, if you're not precise with your fretting technique, the string above it is going to move more and more likely to hit your fingernail. While that is a con, it's also not such a bad thing because it really kind of made me polish up my technique a little bit and make sure I was accurate. So in that sense, for practice, it wasn't exactly a con, but if you were trying to play out live with it, it would definitely be a little bit more difficult to play. Another issue I ran into was that the nut wasn't slotted wide enough for the G and the B strings, as you can see here. Now, if you were going to permanently keep nylons on this guitar, that would be a pretty simple fix. All you'd have to do is slot the nut. But for the purposes of this demonstration, it made it so that the string just sat on top of the nut, and that contributed to some fret buzz, which was the next con. You can hear it in the videos that I posted that there's definitely some fret buzz there, and of course, again, if you were going to keep nylons on there, this could probably easily be worked out. Obviously, there's a different tension between steel and nylon strings, so it was kind of assumed that I would have to do an adjustment on this guitar if I was planning on keeping nylons on it. But I figured I'd mention it anyway so you know what to expect. And last but not least, tuning stability seemed to be a bit more of an issue than normal. If you left the guitar sit overnight, you came back to it the next day, it'd be roughly about a half a step out of tune. I probably had to tune it 2 to 3 times over the course of a couple-hour playing session, but it did seem to hold pretty good tune, at least for a practice session. With that said, I don't plan to permanently keep nylons on this guitar, simply because I love the sound of it with steel strings and I play it quite frequently. What it has inspired me to do is kind of keep an eye out on OfferUp for maybe an old Squire or something that I could easily doctor up to nylons, so be sure to sub to the channel because that project is definitely going to happen. If you found this video interesting, please don't forget to hit the like button. If you have any questions, by all means leave them in the comments, as I do try to answer all of the comments that come through on the channel. And as always, thanks for watching.